Hello there and welcome back to the Hull City Fan Central YouTube channel, where today I'll be doing a video a little bit different but definitely needed. So Hull City do have a bit of a problem going on at the moment, that being the injury crisis. We've currently got, I want to say, majority of our first team out injured, which isn't boding well, as you could have seen by the result against West Brom. As soon as Ozan Tufan went off injured, we just fell apart basically. The structure of our first team squad is built around these players. These are some of the players that we've actually brought in the transfer window. Some of the players that we're trying to build around, and because they're not there, we can't do it. We're falling apart, and we're having to resort to what would basically be our substitutes, and then us not having substitutes means that we are falling apart in that department. So in this video I'll go over all of the different players who are out injured at the moment, what that means for the squad, and how Hull City will be lining up coming into these next few fixtures, as these players will slowly come back, but a few will be a bit more a longer way off. So let's get into the first player, who is Brandon Fleming. So Brandon Fleming, he's been out for the season so far. I think we've played 5 games. He's been out for all of them, and he is missed. I love Louis Coyle to death, but he's just not cutting it. We saw it in the West Brom game. He was getting overrun on that right-hand side, and where Brandon Fleming can come in on that side, he can come in on the left if needed, and can really change up the scene. So Elder and Coyle are really missing out with that Brandon Fleming injury. So it'll be nice to see him back, obviously, but it's a bit of a tough one. He was seen on crutches a few weeks ago, so I'm not sure how his recovery process is going, but his form last season just skyrocketed, especially in that second half when Shota came in. He just turned into a different breed of player, and we are missing him. We need him back. He is one of the players who I think that once he comes back and he starts getting into form, we'll be unstoppable. Let's move into the next player, who is Greg Doherty. So Greg Doherty, although he wouldn't be a first choice in that CDM central midfield role, if you want to have it, because we do have Jean-Michel Sarri and also Regan Slater, the 50 grand man. But yeah, he's a very strong substitute option for either of those. He plays very similar to Regan Slater. I feel that Regan Slater has a little bit more of a prowess about him, especially going forward. But Greg Doherty is still a phenomenal central midfielder, CDM when needed. And we are missing his coming off the bench attacking prowess and defensive prowess that is needed. So it is a very sore miss. I wouldn't say like a starting miss, but definitely one when he comes off the bench. We saw it in a few of the games in pre-season. I think also in the first league game before he got injured, we did see him coming off the bench, making a bit of a change, and then enforcing that relationship in the midfield, which is being missed at the moment. Then moving on to another CDM, who is Jean-Michel Sarri. Yes, he did pick up a bit of an injury in between games, and we are missing it. He was one of the best players in our first few games. Went out, and then we just haven't looked the same in that sort of midfield defensive wise since. I do think that Alfie Jones is still doing a phenomenal job in that role, filling in for Sarri. It is reported that Sarri will be back in a few weeks, should be back for the Sheffield United game, if all goes well, according to some reports. But I think Alfie Jones is still doing a very good job in that role. Very surprised with his push on into central midfield, where he hasn't played there for over a season. So yeah, it's very nice for him to come back to that role and do a very, very solid job at it. I find that at moments he's been pushing on forwards. I think in one game I saw him higher up the field than Oscar Estupinian, which is a bit mental, but hey-ho. So let's move on to the next player, who is unfortunately out injured, who is Ozan Tufan. So obviously Ozan Tufan went off injured in the last game against West Brom, I think in the 21st minute, and the whole shape fell apart as soon as he went off injured. Lovely to see Ryan Woods make his first appearance for Hull City off the bench on that game from that injury. And he did fill in a nice role, as I do think Ryan Woods will be playing against Coventry in Ozan Tufan's role this Saturday against Coventry. But it's a player that we are missing. He has had a phenomenal start to the season. He's bagged 2 goals for himself. Obviously, one was a penalty, but then the other one was a bit more of a well-worked goal against Burnley. So we are definitely missing his presence, especially getting forward, getting the players up. Because at the moment, we're getting Estupiñán and he's not getting any balls in. Although he did get 2 in the West Brom game. If we don't have Tufan there, he's probably not going to get as many until Tete realises how to work around the teams. But yeah, we are missing Tufan. And it's unfortunate he's out for a few games, but I think that he should be back about the same time as Sarri in the Sheffield United game era. He doesn't look too bad with his hamstring injury as it was, compared to some of the players on this list with hamstring injuries. But yeah, he should be back in a few weeks with well recovery. He'll be rested and he'll be ready to push on and get a few more goals hopefully and help with the squad. Then our next player who is out injured is a player who hasn't actually played for the club yet, Sinek. Yes, Dukan Sinek, who joined us in the summer transfer window, one of the 11 signings that we've made so far. And he hasn't played for the club. He's one of a few players on this list who has actually signed for the club and not played. So he did come out, and I think he picked up an injury in the early stages of training with the club. If I remember correctly. So yeah, he's an unfortunate miss. He's meant to be a phenomenal player who will actually fit in nicely and allow Tete to adapt to a role that's more traditional to him. Obviously, Tete is a striker. He's currently playing in that sort of like left wing role, cam left wing area. And he doesn't suit it so much compared to his striker role. And as we saw in that Bristol game, when he comes on in striker, he can do business. And I want to see that sort of partnership with Estupiñán, maybe him with Tyler Smith, to see how that works out. But at the moment, we can't see that because obviously Sinek's out, and we need someone at that left wing to play play the formation, play the style that Shota wants to play at the moment. So once Sinek makes a return, or makes an appearance to start off with, I think that Tete will be favoured for it, and then Sinek will push on, as he's meant to be a phenomenal player. And if you've seen some of his highlights, he does know how to kick a ball. Moving on to another player who unfortunately hasn't appeared for the club yet, Adama Traore, and no, not that Adama Traore. So, Traore, he hasn't officially signed for the club yet, because he did come over to Hull City, was announced by both clubs that there is a mutual agreement there, and then he picked up an injury in some of the pre-season training, unfortunately. I think it was before the squad went off to Turkey, off to Fenerbahce, and off to Marbella. I believe it was before then. And it's said that he's meant to be out until December. So I think that at the moment we are keeping him. We're using our recovery process to actually get him back to fitness, and then we will be signing him in the January transfer window, because there'll be no point having him on the payroll yet when we aren't going to play him. He's just going to be sat in the recovery room, and also I don't think that medical wise he can pass a medical whilst injured. I may be mistaken on that because I don't know too much about the medical process. But yeah, Adama Traore, he's another player who will bring something to the squad. He's another player who I think that once we get this whole squad worked out, how Shota and Adjon Ilajali wants to work out, it'll be a threat to the entire championship. But it's unfortunate that some of these players who are part of this building blocks are out injured and haven't made an appearance for the club yet. Alias Manesh is our next boy who's out injured, and this is a hard hitting one. He's out for about 3 months, so he'll make an appearance closer towards that November, December time, Christmas time, which will be good for a lot of the Boxing Day, Christmas time fixtures, when we do have a lot of fixtures rammed into one area of time. And he should be back fit by then, hopefully, after suffering quite a big hamstring blow in the Burnley game. He's a phenomenal player. We saw that on his loan spell for the last half of last season, and then in the few games that he's played so far this season. He's something special. he is going to do well. And he's trying to get fit for another reason. He's trying to get off to the Qatar World Cup with Iran, because obviously that is in the November-December time. So he'll be trying to get fit as best as he can, because he wants to play in some of the matches for his nation, especially with him progressing so far with the squad in this short amount of time. I think that he does have a shot at getting maybe a start in one of the games, hopefully not against England, obviously because Iran are in the same group as us. But yeah, Salah Aminemy, he's a phenomenal player, and he's another player that we are missing. I think Randall Williams is filling in nicely for him. They're not quite on the same calibre. Obviously, I'd rather take Salah Aminemy over Randall Williams. It's one of them where you're now taking the player off the bench who would come on for him to start for him, and then we're missing that slot on the bench. So that's what the main structure is at the moment, and that's why we're kind of falling down. We've only had one loss, so not too bad of a fall down. We'll see how Coventry goes on Saturday. But Salah Aminemy, yes, another big blow, and he's out for about 3 months, it seems. So another player who's out injured and hasn't actually made an appearance for Hull City in some time is James Scott. So I believe he was out on loan last season, but obviously he was a bit of a part about our promotion League One winning season. I think he got about 3 goals and a few assists in his time. He was mainly a backup for players, and I can see him, once him getting fit, him going out on loan again. I can't see him staying at the club in sort of a principaling role. He's not suited to Championship level. I can see him going somewhere League One, League Two, maybe going down, joining Richie Smallwood at Bradford. But yeah, I don't see him staying in the squad once he gets back to fitness. He's one of these players who we're not missing. A few people probably didn't even know he existed, to be frank. But yeah, he's a player that I think that once he gets back to fitness, he will be shipped out. There's been rumours going around through sources at the club saying that there is a few more players who will be going out on loan, but no players they're planning on selling so far. So James Scott might be a player that is going out on loan once his fitness gets back gained, and he could maybe even be sold off in the January transfer window if his loan deal goes so well at whatever club he will go to. And then there's another player who signed for the club and has not made an appearance, Salah Aminemy. Mahan he's not played a game. He signed a couple of days ago and he's already injured. He did pick up this injury before joining the squad when Arsenal were on their little pre-season stint in USA, the Arsenal Academy that he was with. So it's unfortunate that, but the reason why that we got him now is because he wouldn't be fit in the 7 days that there is left of this transfer window. So Shota actually came out in a press conference stating that we needed to pick him up now, otherwise we wouldn't have got him. And he's a young player that Shota actually wants to incorporate into the squad, and especially with the option to buy at the end of the season, he's a player that Shota is very favourably trying to get into the club and make a sort of like a little bit of a project alongside the main team's ambitions. And he's a phenomenal player as well. If you've not seen some of his highlights, I'd go and check him out, because some of the stuff that he's been doing in the Premier League 2 and in the Papa John's Trophy has been phenomenal. I can see him as a player that will just thrive in the Hull City squad, and especially coming into the Championship, which is it's a high contended league. I think that it'll do him the world of good, and it'll do us the world of good. And it's been a long list, but we're finally at the last player who is injured, Emmanuel. So Emmanuel's a bit of a weird case, because nobody's really sure if he's injured, not fit, got other reasons why he's out. Because everything's been so private about it, so I don't want to speculate too much, because obviously you don't know what's happening. But Emmanuel, he's out. He's not played, I think, it was early stages of last season. We last saw him in a Hull City shirt, maybe a bit before that. So he's not played under Shota. He's not been in this environment, especially with a lot of the new players coming in since the stages of early stages last season. So I don't want to speculate what's happening when he'll be back. It was stated at the end of last season that he should be back within soon, ish time, as whatever he was dealing with last season has sort of died down into a state. This is only what I've read on an article, I think, released by the club in a press release. So I don't want to speculate too much because obviously don't know what's happening with Emmanuel, but it'd be good to see him back, as I think that if you give him a bit of chance in the Championship, he can do some bits. He looks very, very good when he was in League One, as many players did. But I think that he can find his area in the Championship and do some bits for us, especially helping with this squad depth issue that we have at the moment. Whether that's just being some appearances off the bench or even starting. So that's the list. It's a lot of players injured, and I'm sure there will be more to come. Hopefully not. But there is 2 players who have made it off the injury list, that being Tyler Smith and Ryan Longman. So these 2 players are actually fit enough to play against Coventry, although I don't think either of them will start necessarily. I do think there could be appearances off the bench for both of them, depending on how the game plays out. But it's nice to get 2 players off the injury list, and hopefully more will follow in the weeks to come, and hopefully we can actually get the squad that we want back into the Championship and back hopefully pushing us up into the Premier League. So this is it for the Hull City Fan Central YouTube channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss any other Hull City news and content, as it will have a Coventry City prediction video out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But this has been the Hull City Fan Central YouTube channel. Goodbye.